Welcome to Retired for Life. I'm your host, Brian. I retired a few years ago after 30 years in a factory job as a machinist in a millwright. I needed to rediscover what life could really be like. When we purchased this property, the house had stood empty for over a year, and the property had been badly ravaged by poor logging practices. Since my retirement, I've been working to renovate the home and restore the surrounding forest to its natural beauty and attract wildlife back to the property. Join me as I learn about nature and working with wood to create the backdrop for this new chapter of our lives. Well, hello YouTube, and welcome back to Retired for Life. So we've done really well here. I'm quite pleased with Chris's help. We've got this whole bottom section here finished stained now, but we've got a really windy day today, so that's going to interfere a little bit in the sound as we go along. But anyway, we'll make do. We've also got all our boards in along the bottom, and we still have to finish cutting in the 1.5 foot border that's going to be filled with pea stones. We're not to that point yet. What we're going to be working on now is getting our 2 lower windows framed. Now, fortunately, we've got an extra day here with Chris, so he's still here helping. Chris, can you hand me that top piece? Yeah.
So heavy. Here you go.
Thanks, Chris. So this piece I'm going to use to trace along the top here, and then we're going to cut these battens out to make room for this. Now, because it is the top of a window, what I've done here is cut an angle on this piece so we don't get water sitting in there. And then, of course, we're going to use caulking to seal it in against the window. So my first step to get rid of these pieces is going to be to cut and pull out all the old caulking and get ready to put our frame in. So the top is the only part that's going to be a little bit complicated. The sides and the bottom should be pretty straightforward. So I'm going to go get our multi-tool with a nice new blade on it, and we'll do a little bit of tracing and try to cut these pieces out.
Kent is trying to escape.
All right, I'm not sure how well I can get the angle on this, but we'll do what we can here. Okay, that's good enough for that. So we've got the top piece off and part of the sides, and you can see what we're dealing with here. Bring that right in close here, Chris. So this was never really able to properly seal because you can't get to this. But now that we're putting this frame in, we can truly seal in around here for the first time. So we've got our angle cut here on these top pieces. Let's see if I got anywhere near getting this right. Well, getting it in is definitely going to be a challenge to figure that out. All right, so we've been trimming away here. We've got our sides and bottom to length. And I'm just going to finish up the top here, and then once they're all trimmed, we'll go over the ends with the stain to make sure the ends are properly stained and that type of thing, and go over any dirt marks and that kind of thing, get them all cleaned up. And then we're going to caulk around the window itself before we put this frame into place. All right, so I'm going to go get my last cut done on this top piece, because I have them set so that they overhang on either end here about 1/2 inch, just to match everything else I've been doing. So Chris is working away here at getting our silicone in around this window before we put our frame pieces in. So line that up with the end.
The end of the windowsill, right?
Yep.
Good.
Okay, let's get this in place. All right, there we are, folks. So we're going to fill these holes and they'll get a little touch of stain, but that will be it for today. So we'll see you in the morning. All right, folks, we're getting ready to carry on here. Now, it was great to have Chris for that extra day, which allowed us to get this window done. And the staining on the lower half is now all done. So I'm about to start work on the on this window, but minor issue with it. I think the boards or the battens that are along the bottom of this window aren't just too rough a shape. So I'm going to replace them altogether. So I'm going to pry them off and start figuring out what we need to do to get this window trimmed up and in place. All right, folks, so I'm working away here, cutting around the battens here to make room for my window frame. And as expected, the battens along the bottom of this window were not very good, and the boards aren't in that great shape either. These ones were partially buried, so I'm going to just remove them and cut new boards and put those new boards in. And then we'll start doing a little bit of touch-up staining and get ready to put our frame in place. All right, folks, so we've got all our battens cut back to give us room to put our frame in, and the window is now sealed all the way around. And the frame pieces are already all stained, and we still have the battens to go in across the bottom over top of our new boards after our frame is in. So let's start putting all of this together. All right, folks, there is just about everything assembled. I've got one small batten I still have to put in the bottom here at the end. I've got it cut, but I forgot to stain it. So we'll do that and get that last batten in place. And then we have to look at doing another caulking job on this. I want to kind of double seal these windows. So this is angled at the top, as you know, and these are angled, but I want to seal especially all the way along the top, just to make sure we're not getting anything running down in there. So I'm going to mask this off here a bit, and then get our caulking into there. And I'm going to fill these nail holes with the white paintable caulking as well. All right, folks, let's see if this is going to work or if I'm just going to have a giant mess. This particular caulking is taking a lot of force to get it to come through the caulking gun, even though I've got the tip fairly open now. Well, I think I made more of a mess. I know I made more of a mess than I was hoping to. Yeah, it's not bad, but it's messy. I've got to go back over with the light gray stain now and clean all of this up. So I'm getting ready to start putting the pea gravel in here. So I've come out roughly 1.5 feet, and I've got to cut my edge in here and then get ready to put my boards in. Now, I got a fair bit of pea gravel, as I've got to put this in fairly deep so that my boards aren't actually buried in dirt. They're buried in gravel kind of thing. So we've got a fair bit of work here to do to get this edge cut. And again, unfortunately, the pea gravel that I picked up is pretty dirty. We'll have a look at that. So I was pretty pushed for time here, so I had to get the trailer off of the Jeep so Sarah could go into work. So what I did was shovel the back part of the trailer down and put it into my utility trailer for the ATV here. And that way there's no risk of the trailer tipping up on me or anything like that. So obviously I can't step into it while it's like this because it's not attached to anything anymore. It's just sitting on my big bottle jack here. And that's fine. We just won't step in it, and we'll just be careful about how we dig it out. And you can see how dirty this gravel is. I do like the looks of the pea gravel that I have got around the entranceway. I think it turns out really nice, but I had to wash it to get it like that. And I'll be doing the same thing here with this bucket at a time, washing it out, partly because I don't want to provide a spot for weeds to grow once I get this stuff in, and to make it look better. All right, there's my boards for the border. So let's go get to work at cutting this edge. Okay, folks, we're going to try to drive in our first couple of stakes here. This is always a challenge because of all the rocks in the ground. Let's see what happens. All right, definitely need a steel hammer. Well, there's the first one in. All right, this is working better than I thought. So we've got an 8-foot one to put in, and then roughly 6 feet after that. Well, we're close. I got one more spike I want to put in, but I need something about 16 inches long. So we'll go cut a longer one and get that in place. All right, folks, there's our outside edge in place, all staked. Now I have to do a little more backfill and then start putting the gravel in. And I still have to do the end boards too. But that's going to be it for today. It's dinner time. See you in the morning. So we've now got all our border in all the way along and at both ends and leveled out. So the next step is to get this landscaping cloth in to help keep the weeds down. I'm going to be a little bit short on this side. I'm not quite wide enough for half of it by about 6 inches, but I'm not that worried about that. But the first thing I need to do is to start washing off our pea stones. So this stuff is really dirty, and I don't like that. I like how it looks now that I washed off the other two areas. So I'm gonna go ahead and start washing this out with my pressure washer, and hopefully that will help take most of the dirt away and will make things nice and clean. And once I have a few bucket loads of this, I can start putting the landscaper's cloth in place and just weigh it down at the ends with a few buckets of the pea stone, and then we can just start really piling it in after that. All right, let's see how this pressure washer works. All right, it's always a bit fun to get this stuff in place to start with. All right, that's pretty good. Let's keep washing stone and laying it in here. Well, that's all done. That is probably the most physically demanding part of this job, is digging this out and getting these pea stones into place with a border, a pressure treated border. And I'm quite pleased with how it looks. So I was putting this stuff in here a half a bucket at a time after washing it. Now, that may sound a little bit crazy, and I'm sure it looked a little bit crazy, but to me, it made a big difference. This close to the house, this doesn't necessarily get that much rain on it, and it was quite dirty. I took a lot of sludge out of this gravel, and now that it looks clean, it really looks quite nice. I'm very pleased with how this is coming along on the house. So I've got 3 walls now done with the gravel. I didn't need it obviously along there, but there's the second wall there, and now the third. Yeah, that looks really good. So that is about 22 inches wide, about 6 inches deep. And I spent just over $60 on a yard of this pea gravel, and I used a little over half of it for this section. Well, the rest of it, as you saw, I've got dumped up beside the garden shed. We'll just let the rain and snow come down on it until I need it again next year, and that will help wash it out. So that's another part of this job for this wall complete. So we have our window frames in. They're double sealed. Around the edge of the window up against the wall is sealed. And now I've also sealed up around the board and batten siding. So that is sealed too. So that should really help keep the rain out of there. Whoa, boy, that's been something. So I tried to book the man lift for the upper part here, but unfortunately I'm about 2.5 weeks away from getting the man lift. So I am going to use the ladder and get up here and continue staining this wall from the ladder. I'll figure out an easier way rather than going up and down all the time to get this done. The more I get done before I get the man lift, the more I will obviously get done with the man lift, because I've got a number of jobs that I want to get to with that. And of course, I have a neighbor who also is looking for time with the man lift, but I don't think that's going to work for him. I booked it for a week, and I've got enough jobs to keep it busy for 3 weeks, never mind 1 week. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to help him out with that because I've got to get my own stuff done first. Anyway, this has really gone well. Again, a big thanks to Chris for helping me out with it. I would have liked to have had him here for the ditch digging part, but we got it done, and that's what matters. Half a bucket at a time. All right, folks, so if you've got any thoughts, comments, suggestions, anything like that, please let me know in the comments. I always respond to everybody who comments, and I really appreciate your feedback. And I think I'm going to take a little bit of time this week to spend some time on the bike. Yeah, I've spent a little too much time here, and I'll take you guys along with me for a little adventure down the KMP trail. So thanks very much for watching, folks. Remember to stay safe out there, be good to each other, and we will see you out on the trails the next time. That was so back-breaking.
Cold coffee, my old boots are by the door. Nobody's calling, but I don't mind it anymore. 'Cause I've had enough of the rat race, the city life, the social grace. Burnt out on confidence, so tired of keeping score. Gonna find somewhere to slow it down, by a little place way out of town. Gonna take my time, 'cause it's all mine. Trade my pride for a quiet life. Maybe then my time will come around, way out of town. Down in the hills of old Topanga Road, there's a place I go to ease a weary soul. I could hide away above the sea, smoke my stuff, talk to the trees, get myself a dog and build a heart of gold. somewhere to slow